That gets into what's frequency and vibration. Well, the first one is the frequency of your mother's heartbeat. And the second part is the vibration of her voice. That's how we start in life.
Welcome to the Frequency Files. Thanks for joining us as we explore the vibrations, forms, and creations and mechanisms behind them that inform the nature of existence.
Okay.
Super excited to keep the conversation rolling. We're something that I've been really thinking about, and I know that you're an artist, but also a obviously deep thinker and can see a lot of the synergies in pop culture, in media, in various art forms. And I'm curious on your perspective of how does art serve as a form of providing transmission or knowledge transference?
Wow. The couple things.
Yeah.
There was this book, and somebody said the first day they created heaven and earth. Okay. And and they got busy and created a few more things over the next 7 days. And of course, anybody that practices art has things that they create with. Okay. So that's number one. The second part of that is that where does the information, ideas, thoughts, whatever that form before we actually execute? And that is creation. That's where creation's kind of the outcome. But
Mm.
the creating occurred before we got our hands on it,
Yes.
before we got messy. So what happens is it's the first time that people actually they're in a zero reality. They're in the area where all information exists and all ideas and things like that. So Tesla, Michelangelo, Einstein, all of them said the same thing, is that they went to sleep or late at night or sitting still. It came to them. It came to them. Michelangelo said, well, I just take away everything that's not supposed to be there. And if you think about that, you had to have an idea of what was there in a big cubic block of marble. Okay. For anybody that's done carving back in the 1700s, whatever. So the same thing occurs in painting is that you're abandoning number one reality and you're literally inverting and going out into the universe somewhere. And that was the idea. Like when I first started in high school, I saw somebody kind of spacing out, we called it. And I
Mm.
tap them on the shoulder and go, hey, hey, hey. And they're like, what? A startled response shows that you were somewhere else. And I said, where were you? And they go, I was somewhere else. And I go, I know that, but I want to know exactly where that is. Okay.
Mm.
Because I might want to go there and look at it too.
Mm.
Okay. I want to look at what you're seeing. So one of the skills I was either born with or developed is somebody could describe like a building or a place, and I could fill in all the blanks. And they're like, "How are you doing that?" And I go, "Cause I'm there. I was there looking at it. Let's." And so the same thing with time and space. You can go anywhere and look at anything, or go anytime and look at what was going on. And eventually, of course, they come up and call that remote viewing.
Yeah.
And and there's nothing remote about it, okay?
Yeah.
Because there's no distance. There's no
Yeah.
distance to travel.
Yeah.
So I literally had to develop what I call a GPS system of time and space or zero reality, where maybe I could go to the same places that these great minds and great inventions came from because they already exist. It's just that we tap into it and then that information flows into us, just like a thought flows into us. And as an example, one day I was watching TV, reading a book, listening to music, and painting. And my girlfriend said, "Well, what in the world are you doing?" And I go, I'm painting a painting." And she goes, "You got TV on, radio, song, you know?" And I said, "I'm occupying my conscious, subconscious, unconscious to the point that it's overloaded and I can escape enough to pay attention to whatever's supposed to go down on this piece of canvas."
Mm.
So, so there is a place that creative acts come out of. And the interface is energy. How much energy can I afford or apply to producing this sculpture or invention or thought or action or relationship? It all comes down to what we call creative energy. That's my idea. So I eventually called all this creative energetic health. And so the creative aspect of it was to not have to guess what was wrong with a person. It was to go into the field and know what was wrong with a person or what was going on. And that's the creative aspect of it. It's that creative channel, we call it, or course. And then you apply energy to it to make it happen. Well, that's the same for basically anything we do. We have to have the energy to motivate the cells or the neurons or the consciousness or the body or, you know, everybody gets lost and goes and says something to the effect of, "Well, I made this painting," like the one over my shoulder. And when I was making that painting, I had another artist friend of mine. We used to tease, and all he saw was the black portion of it. Let's see, there's little black things up in the sky. And it's Mitten Rock out in Arizona. It's a location, and there's a native name for it, Sea Lovely or whatever, something. But the myth is that all the souls of all the creatures and insects and things that are alive on the earth came out of that. Okay, so I was painting just the little black things, which is like there's praying mantises and bats, and there's just all kinds of things floating around in that sky. And I was painting just the black things, and he's like, "You are crazy." Because he goes, "Well, where's the rest of the painting?" And I go, I already know what the rest of the painting is. I can already see it, right? So all artists eventually have some form of seeing, right? Being a seer, of seeing the outcome of their actions, and then they're just going through the motions to produce it, and it's all done non-consciously. Like you don't have a clue. Another time I was painting a painting and not paying any attention. I was outdoors in Arkansas, and I finally kind of woke up after a couple of hours. There's about 50 people standing around watching me. And I was like, wow. And one of them goes, "How do you know where to put the paint?" I go, "I don't have a clue." Right? It's a true artist is the paint goes where the paint's supposed to go. You know,
Yeah.
the jewelry's supposed to turn out the way it turns out. I don't. So another example, I was in a little shop in Santa Fe, and I bought a little frog. It's a excuse me, a carving done out of stone and very beautiful. It's a Native American piece. And my girlfriend's like, "What are you going to do with that?" And I go, "It's a beautiful ring." And she goes, "What are you talking about?" It's, you know, I'm holding a carving. She's looking at a carving. I'm looking at a beautiful ring. So I made a sterling silver lily pad and
Oh, beautiful.
put the frog on top of it and put it on. It drives people crazy. They see that and it's like, why? It's a creative act. It's something that hadn't been seen. It's a thing of beauty. And that's the other thing is all acts of creation are we call acts of beauty. So
Mm.
so this is where art is the initial connection. And you can look at children, throw them a box of crayons and let them go. And I don't care who they are, give them a stick in the dirt, they're going to draw things. And the one I'm trying to get over is why do they draw people as stick figures? The 2 years old, and I've not been able to answer that one. And I'm still working on it. So, so anyway, that's our view of the universe, and that's our connection. And I tell people, you are creative every day. You can be one of the most creative genius in the world with food or decorating or I paint, I make jewelry. I've built what I call beautiful places, meaning buildings and homes and stuff over the years. And it's something that produces joy. So so
Mm.
you can throw out the idea you have to be a tortured artist or anything. Okay. It's uh it's not necessary to suffer to create great art. That's my opinion.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
it requires you to be silent enough or still the voices enough to be able to just let the act come through
Yeah,
or be produced. So
yeah.
that's spontaneous emission, right? Is what we call. There's
Mm.
spontaneous inflow of information. That's what happened to Tesla, all his inventions. And he said that. How'd you invent this? I don't know. It just came to me in the middle of the night and I just wrote it all down. And I keep a notebook. Um, I get yelled at for writing in the middle of the night because things come to me. But anyway, I encourage people. Everybody should have some form of art that they practice.
Mm. Mm.
and and it's a unlimited world. In other words, you can find something to play with. I think one of my teachers one time said that a person without a hobby that involves their hands is not a happy person. So, so even in the midst of poverty, like I grew up in, my grandmother knitted, or they did quilts, or they from scraps. I mean, there's just so many ways. I say everything that exists in the universe that you see with your eyes when you go around was created by somebody, and
Mm.
and and I mean, if you take a house, there's 4,000 things that went into the house that somebody created.
Mm.
And then
Mm.
how you arrange it was somebody else created it.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
so
Mm.
it's a pretty awesome world, right? And then if you look at the spirit world, well, that's just hard to comprehend who created that thing. Zero reality. We have a hard enough time with number one, like who the hell created armadillos or platypus or you know what were they
Amazing.
thinking, right? Let alone if you sit in a restaurant and look around and go, you just got to start shaking your head at some point. That's my opinion. No judgment. No judgment. It's just like, wow, somebody really was thinking something there. I'm teasing and having fun, by the way. So, right?
No, absolutely. But it's an encouragement to broaden our scope of what is art, what is creation. And one
Yeah.
of a teacher of mine said, you are the art. It's just the form that changes. And it's something that really stuck with me. And as you're
Yeah.
sharing that, I was thinking yesterday I had a meditation group here, and a friend of mine works in AI. And he was like, a lot of the AI innovations happened because of someone getting downloads. And I'm like, what?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's telling me about their process and, how it mirrors the processes of so many other people that somewhere along the line we forget have been working at that interface
Mhm.
in disciplines of maths and science and various other forms of creation.
Oh, yeah. I laugh because I got exposed to a lot of this when I was young. My
Mm.
mother would cook. My grandmother and mother both cooked, and I got the brilliant idea to ask my mother how she made a strawberry pie one day. And she goes, "Well, you take some strawberries," and I got my pen and pencil out, pen and paper. How many strawberries? Well, you just take some strawberries, and here we go. And then you put some milk. How much milk? Well, you put them out. And so she was doing it all intuitively. She was
Yeah.
all downloading all of it. And so I learned to cook that way.
Yeah.
And people go, "Wow, that's a fantastic meal. What all did you put in?" And I go, I put some of this and put enough of that and a little bit of, and they get mad because there's no recipe. It's just, you put what's it's like the sculpture. You put in
Yeah.
there, or artists, well, you put in there what needs to be in there for it to be
Yeah.
a good meal. And
Totally.
like I said, I get yelled at about it because I have a hard time reproducing something I've made. Well, that's all artists. They want to create something, but it's hard to reproduce the same thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think God has the same problem with people. It's hard to
Yeah.
reproduce the same thing. Um, at least I hope I'm one of a kind. So I think the universe hopes that too.
In this lifetime, we don't know about the parallel ones.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, I'm the same with cooking, and people are like, "That's a good one. You should write it down." I'm like, "But I don't even
yeah,
know what number to. I can't remember."
yeah, that's it. It's so those are creative acts. It's one of the things where we produce joyfulness on our own.
Mm,
We are not subject or controlled as a rule. Um, those things being only our programming or whatever, but
yeah.
our limitation of the materials available. And
Mm,
you think about that and look at humans, well, are we the product of the limitations of what material was available to produce?
yeah.
Like I say, you can go crazy with these things once you start going that away, as
Yeah.
opposed to just okay, it was genes and chromosomes and, zygotes and all that.
Yeah.
Because if you go, well, where did those come from? Now you lose everybody uh,
Mm,
somewhere else. So my fascination has always been what in the why is somewhere else, and what is it? So, and
mm,
that's what people are discovering today is that there's a why out there. Science won't address why. So, you
mm,
know, um, religion glosses over it. Spirituality says find it yourself. I always like that one.
mm, mm,
So,
mm, mm,
kind
mm.
of where we are in the world.
Yeah. 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 Well, how do you answer it when people ask you why?
Oh, it's that's where most people stop at, like the we'll call it the ego, their
Mm,
own limits of their own conscious says I did that. Okay.
mm,
And I think that's important. I think it's important to take responsibility,
yeah.
that I did that, and without getting into really bad jokes. Um, but but the downloading or the upstream consciousness that produced the impulse to produce the I did that, now that's the why. Okay. And that requires, like, what we step out or step up.
Mm,
And so I looked at the ring, the sculpture somebody else made, the little frog. And then the image formed in my mind of it sitting on a lily pad about so big, right? And then making it into a ring, which is gaudy as everything. It's because it should be like it's bracelet size. And then I'm thinking about all that, and I put like make it in a lily pad and put these little, like, all the things a lily pad has, like the veins or structure of it. And it's like I'm seeing all that, but look, not here, right? So we call that the mind's eye, right? Well, then, and when we use it with our eyes closed, we call it the intuition, right? So the mind's eye is when your eyes are open, you're still able to see things. And intuition to me is when your eyes are closed, okay? Because you're allowing that full step-by-step process or extension to be connected to you. Okay. And then for that to come out of your hands or energy or money or talent or skills or everything that you can apply it to. And so that's the way I look at it. And
Mm,
then you can practice it or go to school for it. We call those technical artists. And then there's intuitive artists that don't have any training. They just produce beautiful things.
mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm,
So two different types. It's the same thing in like energy medicine, or there's people that are naturals.
mm,
I was one of those. And then there's people that are technicians. They went to school and got degrees and do Reiki and all these things. And I remember one guy accused me of being a technician. He was a Native American medicine man. And I said, no,
oh,
no, 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 no. I said, I'm a natural at it. And I use the technical to keep myself honest, to
mm,
make sure that I've covered all the different things. So when I work on a person, I go through about 1,000 questions because I forget to ask some of them if I'm just free floating through somebody's problems or whatever. So I want to make sure that I've done a quote unquote viewing, but I've also done a technical analysis of what I'm looking at. Um, because people want to know the truth and want to know the terms and all the different things.
mm,
So,
mm, mm,
like you say, your back hurt. Well, is it vertebrae? Is it fascia? Is it muscles? Is it intercostal? Right. You have to know all that, or people don't think you know what you're talking about. So I
mm,
learned those languages. It's called medicine language, right? So.
mm,
And then there's a spirit world language. That's different. All right.
mm, mm,
Way different.
mm,
Doctors, medical doctors don't have spirit world language.
mm,
Okay.
mm,
Spirit world language, people, they call them hateles or singers, like in Navajo, one of the tribes, is they perform a ritual, a process of making a person healthy again. And there's no logic, science involved in it. There's no intellect involved. It's all spirit. And that is the hardest thing to explain. But if you ever watch it or be around it, it's like amazing, you know?
mm,
So,
mm,
uh,
mm. Amazing, amazing.
yeah. I'll give an example too, like the natives in Australia. We have a tribe here called Zunis, Zuni. And I got invited to one of their ceremonies by the head medicine man there. And I watched as they blessed 260,000 acres of land to the point that you could see it. You could see the energy that they were generating to bless their land, to produce crops and produce rain and all the things that are necessary for that land to sustain that tribe.
Mm,
And who do we admire in our world? Somebody that made $1 billion. And I'm like, well, you might be good, but I don't think you're that good. Right? And I always had aspirations to be as good as the ones that were blessing that much land. I mean, the Aborigines of Australia, I promise they're out there doing it while you're out there having a Foster's or whatever. One just finish up on art is
mm,
art tells a tale of evolution.
mm,
Okay. And I'll explain that is that there was an artist named Giotto, Italy, 1300s, and he was the first one that sort of commercialized Roman art and the idea of drawing buildings and people together, we might say. They did portraits before that, but yeah. Anyway, so that evolved into what we call realism. Like the artists up through the 1600s, 1700s, they try, I mean, every little detail, it's like some phenomenal OCD thing. Okay. And and then it gave way to Impressionism. Now, these are thought processes. They represent the evolution of thought to go from realism into some foggy notion of what reality is. And I'm just going to give you pieces and parts of it, and that's Impressionism. Well, then it goes to abstract.
Yeah.
I'm just going to make a bunch of lines, and you're supposed to come up with, oh, that's my mother's portrait. And so you look at that where you're trying to depict reality, and then you're going to where you're trying to show what's in your mind, and then that has nothing to do with reality. Okay. So we go to abstract, and then it goes into, I don't know what the heck you call it now. You know,
Surrealism?
well, oh, I'm sorry, I left that out. Surrealism was the going into the 1800s, uh, into the drugs and
Mm.
the liqueurs and different people were experimenting, right?
Mm.
And so you had Marguerite and Toulouse-Lautrec and all these people, and so that was the dream world. That's the same thing as in Australia. And then out of that, we started getting into brutalism, came with the wars, like real harsh stuff. That was the initial Picasso stuff. And then we got into the fragmentation of society, and we call that Picasso and all art since then, basically. It's a fragmented reality that they're depicting. And so we want to know what the next one is. Well, lately they've been putting up blank canvases and telling you what's on it, you know. So, which is a total expression of uh, emptiness of the mind and artistic ability. That's my
Mm.
opinion. In other words, there's nothing creative about it. Whereas we started out being really, really creative and attention to detail. And so you follow that evolution of how art themes came about and art movements, and you can kind of follow how society developed. So that's my opinion on art.
Mm. Mm. And how dominant cultural values influence where art sits as a practice, as an expression, as an integration of everyday life, and a thing that is or isn't valued or given space, or even like practiced as just a practice, not as a thing that has to be in a museum do you know what I mean? Like people have all sorts of different definitions that can sometimes inhibit their personal creative expression.
Right. Yeah, the blocks to the flow of creative energy. We call it pain if it's in the physical body. We call it writer's block or artist block if you're unable to proceed with your vision, you know.
Mm.
And and then on the other side of it is an artist may or may not give value to what they're creating. If you're in the process of creating it, it's like I'm not creating it with the idea it's worth X number of dollars. I'm just playing. You might, it's like a child. I'm just playing with it. But and here's the rule: people give meaning to things. Okay.
Yep.
So when you look at Picasso or Van Gogh that sells for $100 million, people give meaning to that, and then you go, "What the hell are they thinking?" You know? And so why why do we have some ideal, and how is it supported? Here's that why thing coming in, right? And why would you pay that? And why do you think? I mean, there's a bunch of whys that we get into. And none of them have to do with the fact that it's a painting and you can enjoy it and you can like it because I like it and you don't have to explain why. You know, if I love you, I don't have to tell you why. I don't have to justify it because ultimately I've just made a decision to state my position that I'm being loving and you're the object of it. Okay. And so that's the case where why disappears. There's no why involved in loving another person. We say if there's a why involved, then it's a technical love, right? Conditional. Yeah, you do this, I do that. Split the money afterwards.
Mm,
That's
mm,
the American thing.
mm.
I like split the kids. Forget this dual custody, just right down the middle. So, anyway,
It's like, you were saying in an earlier episode about how can you prove love's real, or, the I'm paraphrasing here, but do you know what I mean? When you were saying, asking the scientists to, show me what love is and prove it. And it's like love is this glue. We
yeah,
all know what it's like to have it and not have it. And yet that, yeah, the why or the
yeah,
realism of it or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. There is no explanation of it, but there's a million songs and poems and books about it, bazillions.
Mm, mm,
And and what they're trying to do is express their state of being. Okay. And and we say that's damn near impossible because just like if I said I liked a certain movie, if I had to break down what liking that movie is, there's too many parts, too many moving parts. If and so we say instead of explaining all the parts, oh, I like this and that part, we just say I like the movie. And if you truly love somebody, you just love them. There's no, you can't supply answers to why, right? I laugh because some of the young ones will come to me and go, "Oh, I love my boyfriend." I go, "Why do you love your boyfriend? He has a neat car." Right? Or he's on the football team or something, right? And it makes me laugh because they're not stating a state of being. They're just stating something they like that has nothing to do with
to
that
do with
boy.
him. Well, yeah.
Yeah. So if you genuinely like somebody, you genuinely love somebody, it's called an absolute. I'm
Mm,
stating my position. If like I say I love you,
mm.
I'm stating my position in relation to you. I don't need a mirror. I don't need a comeback. I don't need you to do anything or support it or foster it or contribute to it. And because all those things, they'll occur if they occur, and if they don't, I don't need to write a country and western song or a whining song like the Beatles or the Rolling Stones or people like that. You'd be surprised how many songs in country western and rock and roll are whining songs. Yeah, I miss you. Right. So remember, we're back to that be a man cupcake routine. Be tough, right? Don't
Yeah.
do that. Oh, I miss you. Well, what the hell am I going to do with that? Especially if you're somewhere else, right? So, oh, I'll call you up and I miss you. In other words, I don't feel good about loving you. Oh, that's a country and western song if I ever heard one. Yeah, I
Mm.
miss you, so I feel bad. Well, how does loving you and me feeling bad about loving you, and here we go. Now we're back to that journey song. I want to know what love is. I want you to
Mm.
show me, right? Don't start telling me, or we'll have 10 verses to this song. So, so you can see I get a little lost on country and western music and rock and roll and a whole bunch of poetry. Don't even get started on that one. So, uh,
Yeah. But as you say, like it's like that reflection of the collective around those themes and what we've
mhm.
bought into as beliefs and programs, and yeah, that continually get reinforced, and so become the way things are in the dominant culture, I suppose, for lots of people.
Yeah, they're I I think the trick is to explore, to reach a little bit into those whys, and when you do, it's just to satisfy yourself. It's if I say I love you and I get a smile out of you, I have created a dopamine equation, right? If I make you laugh, I've created a dopamine equation. If I make you cry, I've created something else, uh, serotonin, melatonin, or some other prostaglandin, something else, some sort of chemical response or hormonal response by virtue of our language, and that gets into what's frequency and vibration. Well, the first one is the frequency of your mother's heartbeat. And the second part is the vibration of her voice. That's how we start in life.
Mm.
Frequency and vibration right at the beginning. Okay. And you're subject to it, and it's hammered into you for 9 months straight. or or 10 months and 10 days in Chinese medicine. So so why wouldn't we like evolve along that creative line or that developmental line, just like in art or something? And it astounds me that 1 and 2 year olds like that, conversations that come out of them, because there's a whole lot of data there that's coming into place for them to be able to even hold those conversations. And it's because they were subject to those frequencies and vibrations, and now that is developing out of them or through them. And
Mm.
literally, that's what makes us who we are. Makes
Mm.
Sarah and Randy. So
Mm. Mm. Hmm. That makes us who we are as this physical self.
nope, the conscious
Oh,
self.
the conscious self. But then the
Yeah,
conscious self is impacted by everywhere else it's been in past, present, parallel, and future.
yeah. We you have to have a body to experience consciousness.
Well, that's
Yeah,
why
what?
I was saying this
Yeah.
self. Yeah.
But when you
Yeah.
die, you can experience consciousness without a body.
Mm-hmm.
It, it's just very frustrating at a certain level. At another level, it's not. You don't even care about it. But you're not able, as a rule, to communicate. Now that's not exactly true, okay? Because I've done a lot of that and do a lot of that. But so when you die, you finally find out that you're conscious, independent of your body.
Mm.
But you find out that to be human and have a life requires a body.
Yeah.
So they are separate. They are like this. They separate every night. They separate,
Yeah.
and so I tell people, hold on to your body as long as you can. It's uh, it's the only way to go through life. That's why I
Mm.
keep coming back. I think I died 6 or 7 times. So
In this lifetime, you've died 6 or 7
yeah,
times.
yeah, I like it. I like it here. So so all these people that talk about, oh, I'm never coming back, I'm never reincarnating. I said, you got to be crazy, man. There's the most fun you can ever have is to have a human body. And that's why all the ghosts and demons and entities and angels and everything, they literally hold humans in awe because they have something that they don't have. Right? And that's why we should not be mean to it, our body. And we shouldn't be basically mean to other bodies. I mean, it's very simple. You know? Um, anyway, that's my opinion of it all. So,
Yeah. Wow. I just I want to know about all your NDEs now.
no, it's um, some of the people are correct in what they describe. Most of them are not.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So the way I explained it, this is the concept of an ocean of light.
Mm.
It's like being a fish in the ocean. You're not aware of the ocean. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you have a body, you're not aware of this ocean of light, this zero reality that exists
Yeah.
around you.
Yeah.
You can see a little bit of it as an aura around a person. You're
Yeah.
starting to see into that world.
Yeah.
But when you go over into it, minus the body, that's all there is. Literally you become the water. First you're the fish, become the water. Somebody one time said, "Well, how'd you come back?" And it's like I realized that I was looking at the ocean. That is, first of all, they told me I think I was gone for about 5 or 6 days, 7 days. And then at some point I could like see the all the light ocean or whatever, the brilliance of it. And by having that thought that I could see it made me a fish again. Does that make sense? And it
Mm.
made me have a body again. And as soon as I did it, I woke up. And everybody's like shocked, the doctors and everybody else, because I've been gone a long time. And I'm like, what day is it? because I've been gone. And apparently I've been gone a long time. And what I didn't like is every time you wake up, they ask you some stupid question like, who's the president? And of course, my response was like Reagan or somebody. And they all got a big laugh out of that because there's a discontinuity that happens between this reality and that reality. And when you go back and forth, sometimes you just have a hard time, right?
Yeah.
It's and the other thing I'll tell people is once you've had uh, died and come back, is that all kinds of things change. You're not the same person.
Mm.
You don't have fear. That's gone as a rule.
Mm.
So, so to be fearless in the world is like a very high thing in spirituality or yoga and different things. Um, so there's an adjustment in the personality, and I've had to ask other people like, how am I? You see what I mean? Like, how am I in reference to how you knew me before that?
Mm.
And so I'm trying to draw a reference
Yeah.
set, is what I call it, so that I can more or less be normal around people that are used to seeing me. Okay.
Yeah.
And not knowing that there may have opened up a whole nother thing, right? That goes on with those people. Another aspect of that in Native American traditions, to be a shaman is real simple. You have to die and come back. So they take you out and leave you in the woods for 3 days, and generally you die. And if you come back, you can be a medicine man. And if you died, oh well, next. So so they don't talk about that. All these people on the internet going, "Oh, I'm a shaman or I'm a medicine man." I go, "Well, go through that process I did, and then we'll talk about it, right? And see if you're still around." So Native American tradition, what they do, they tie you to a tree, and yeah, come back in 3 days, see if you're still there. So
Ah,
that was
okay.
just one of them, but and there's a lot more to that.
Yeah.
Okay, they take it. I had to try it. I tied myself to a tree. I didn't have. So even if we don't have a teacher, we can go through the process that other people have been through and learn those processes and develop them ourselves so that we can become the shamans and medicine men that we need or medicine woman that we need to help others.
Mm.
Because when you do that, you become extremely connected to zero reality. You
Mm.
can help people because you know the truth. It comes to you just like a painting. It comes to you what's going on with them and what they need.
Mm.
And whether it's roots and flowers and vegetables or meat or minerals or, all that comes to you as an innate knowledge because you're tapped into it because there's been generations that have developed that database. That's the way to look at it. So you're able to get into that database that has been produced over generations. And so I had 3 or 4 other teachers. Uh, None of them had a physical body, by the way, but they would teach me all this stuff. And the same way, if you had somebody like you're on the screen right here.
Mm.
If you were here with no screen, it would be the same thing as what I experienced. All right.
Mm.
They call them plasma beings, ghosts, all this language, but it's a highly accepted form of education and training to have a virtual, I'll use that language, uh, mentor or teacher, right?
Mm. 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 Mm.
So a lot different ways of learning compared to, oh, let me put you in a school desk for 8 hours a day, right?
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Way different.
Completely different. Yeah. 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 The trainings from the inner worlds.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Most people don't want to do it. It's all the spiritual practices are ones of deprivation. Uh, they deprive you of, they blindfold you or leave you in the dark or take away the water or take away the food for 40 days. I think that's in one of the books.
Mm.
And and you look at that and what does that do? Well, it kicks you out of this number one reality is what it does. And and if you exist over in the other reality for 40 days, you have what we call insight.
Yeah.
And and here now we're back to that intuitiveness and reach and all kinds of things. So you get into it, you can understand the symmetry of it.
Yeah. And that's the end of part 3 with Randy Veitenheimer. Join me on the next track to keep the conversation rolling.